ADVNC Lacrosse podcast. I'm your host, Chris Rotelli. Today we are very lucky to be joined by the hottest coach in America, High Point's Jon Torpey. Torps, how you doing today?
Good, Chris. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. You are doing good. You must be riding pretty high. You guys are 4-0. You just beat UVA. You've beaten Drexel. You beat Duke. How are you guys doing this, man?
It's funny. It's no secret recipe. It's just hard work and bringing in the right people. I tell people all the time, like, we're big proponents of recruiting great kids who have great parents, and we bring guys in here that want to work and that want to kind of abide by the rules of our program. And it's a pretty disciplined environment, and we do a lot of stuff fundamentally to help these guys become better players, and we have a kind of our own base system of fundamentals that we follow both individually and team-wise. And I just think this year you've got great buy-in from our seniors, which trickles down to our juniors, our sophomores, and our freshmen. And it's a really good group of guys. It's a fun group to coach. So no crazy flash in the pan answer, but yeah, it's been 7 years of bringing in the right people and doing the right things with them.
Yeah, I bet. Well, you mentioned you've been there 7 years. This has kind of been building. Were you expecting this start this year, to come out and beat Duke and UVA and go 4-0 to start the year?
Yeah, I don't know if we were expecting, the 4-0, but we thought we had a good team. I think, it starts with our goalkeeping. Timmy Troutner is fantastic, and he's had a really great start to the year. Does a lot for us. I think, a lot of people just see his saving ability, but what he does in the clear, what he does in our ride, what he does as a seventh defenseman outside the cage, and, just the way the guys in front of him love playing for him. He's as good of a leader back there as I've ever seen. And then, our face-off group, from our face-off guy to our wings, have done an exceptional job. I think, we've got a fantastic ex-Dodger in Asher Nolting and a great finisher in Chris Young, and, a guy, Ben Baker, who's just been kind of both. He's been a finisher, he's been a feeder. He's done a great job of riding and adding personality to our attack. And then we've gotten some really just great effort from our defensive midfielders, our poles, our close guys, and our middies. So, it's a total team effort across the board, but there's definitely some guys there that have, really popped in these first couple of games. Do what we've done.
Yeah, so talk about some of those guys, like Troutner and Asher. Were they the best high school players coming out when you were recruiting them, in your opinion, or have you guys been developing them, and have you seen them just really level up this year?
I think both of those guys were pretty high-end recruits. I don't think they were, they were maybe a little late to the process in terms of their commitments to us. But, both guys were just exceptional talents, and you could see it, kind of in the early stages of where they were. And I think they've done a great job of just developing within our program and understanding our offenses and our defenses. And, but we typically are a program that, brings guys in and kind of worries less about where they're ranked or what their accolades are, and worries a lot more about, are they coachable? Are they good kids? Are they going to, like I said, abide by the kind of rules of our program? And, it's a rarity to say that you've got, it's 100% buy-in in your locker room, but I can tell you this is a pretty hardened group. This is a group of guys, outside of our freshmen that started, that had a tough 2017 season where we struggled, in certain aspects of the game, and then, our 2018 team comes in and we start 0-6, and we were able to, turn around and win a regular season conference championship and share that with Richmond. But this is a group that, has been through a lot, and there was a lot of guys in that locker room that maybe didn't play that much as freshmen, or maybe got some time as freshmen and then kind of running out of the lineup that weren't the highly touted recruits, but they've worked extremely hard, and they've found a role, whether it's cheering guys on and pumping guys up and coaching guys up on the bench, or whether it's being in games and being someone we rely on one day a week as a guy that can finish or play good defense. So it's like I said, it's a fun group to coach, and Timmy and Asher are obviously exceptional, but there's a lot of other guys on that team that don't get the accolades that they deserve, that I would say are some of the best position players in the country in terms of what they do.
Well, it's clear watching you guys play. You've done an amazing job developing a special culture and team chemistry specifically with this team, and you can tell the guys love it. They play hard. You can tell they love each other. I was heartbroken watching the UVA game a little bit as a UVA fan, but I was also just so impressed with the way your team rallied. I mean, you guys went down 3-0. Game could have kind of got away from you, and they seemed unfazed and just, stayed at it. What do you do to develop that great chemistry and culture on your team?
Like I said, it's parents, and it's not cliche. It's the God's honest truth. And when I started this program 7 years ago, I had a great conversation with Andy Shea, who's a very good friend of mine and a guy that I respect a whole great deal, and he's had a ton of success in the sport. And I said, what differentiates you guys from other great programs? And he said, we recruit great parents. We have a culture where, when things go wrong, we don't have people, call and say, why are you picking on your son type of stuff. It's, we'll make sure we fix that. And, I can tell you, if there was anything, and we don't really have issues off the field, knock on wood, with our guys. They do a great job socially. They do a great job academically. And I think they know the standards of our program. But, when we do, and we have in the past have had something we have to address, I always know that I've got, the right kid, because I'll call a parent and say, I'm disappointed in your son. And instead of pointing the finger at me and saying that, I did something to him, they'll be like, you're right, he's wrong and he needs to fix it or he's coming home, and when you have those kind of people in your program and you have those kind of kids that have come from good, strong, disciplined environments, you can be authentic in the way you coach guys. And I tell our guys all the time, I'm 41 years old and I've been doing this for 18 years and I'm at a point in my career now where I only want to be around two people that I like and people that I trust and people, that I want to be around and that I, enjoy being around. And I feel like, again, we've worked very hard to eliminate any sort of personality that could come into our locker room and disrupt it. And usually when there is, they get figured out pretty quickly or, and they'll leave or they, don't end up coming here. But, we've really filtered through, anyone that's going to disrupt this thing and just, whether it's 0-6 last year and having our alums text us and say, Coach, we love you, you're good, we got this thing going, or parents of former kids, or, it's 4-0 or it's 3-0 after the Drexel game with 25 guys and, we're 7 years old as a program. We had 25 guys and probably, 30 parents of alums at that game saying, like, we love what you're doing. Thanks for what you've done for our kids. And they're saying that to everybody on staff and, some of the guys that were there. It's special, and it's, you can say whatever you want about wins and losses, but that kind of stuff to me is what this thing's all about.
Yeah, that's all. How do you identify that when you're talking to prospective players and parents? What stands out as this guy's got good character. These are great parents. How do you tell?
It's a great question. What's funny is to me, it's feel. You can feel it right away. You just can. And I was raised by great parents. I've got an amazing wife. I've got some fantastic friends, and I just know the kind of people I want to be around. And it's like one of those things where when you walk into an environment, you feel it right away. Either you want to be there or you don't want to be there. And, typically the parents that, are saying things or, that come in with a little bit of a track record. Maybe you had a conversation with a high school coach, or maybe you talked to somebody in that locale. And, if somebody were to ever say to me, like, you don't want this kid or you don't want this parent, they're a complete pain in the ass, pardon my French, there's a good likelihood that we're not even bringing them on campus. We hear things like, you'll love the parents, or he's a fantastic kid. And then you get a chance to see them and meet them in person. As people that deal in the profession of, working with people every day and trying to mentor people, you just have an knack for finding the right people that you want in your culture. And I think, again, if you're, raised the right way and you've got a moral compass and you try to do things the right way and and it's a standard that you want to, live up to, and you ask your children to live up to, and you ask your guys to live up to, you'll find them pretty quick, the people that you want on board.
Yeah, that's great. So how good do you think this year's team can be?
I think they could be, even a lot better than where we are right now. Look at, right now our assistants are in our locker room, watching film with our guys, of all the deficiencies that we've had over the last two games that we didn't get a chance to break down, the Drexel and UVA game. And, It's a long film. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there, offensively and defensively, in the middle third of the field that, and honestly, it was disappointing that, were things that we touched on and things that we worked on that we didn't execute on. So for us, I think we're just scratching the surface of kind of who this team can be. And I think if we can, continue to be humble and continue to be hungry and continue to, remain, we've been pretty fortunate in terms of injuries, out of those situations, then I think they could be, one of the best teams I've ever had the opportunity to coach.
I love it. Take me through, what are your practices like? How are you, how do you structure them? And are you doing anything different to get your guys playing at this high level?
I think the biggest thing is, I'd say probably 4 of the 5 days that we practice during the course of the week, we try to make things competitive. We try to get the guys, competing against one another and have a consequence for the winner, for the loser. And, I don't know how many people do that, as during the season. Maybe that's something people focus on a little bit more in the fall. We try to continue to keep that going. And, I think the biggest thing though in practice is, whether, we have 50 some odd guys on their team. And I think the thing that the guys will tell you is they never leave practice and they're not, they're not tired. I mean, they're always tired. Sorry. There's not a day that goes by where those guys aren't sweating and could probably fall asleep right after practice with how much we do. And that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I mean, we build up to the week. On Thursdays and Fridays, we go a little bit more up tempo instead of kind of slowing things down. And, we try to do some things where, I know a lot of people do scout on 2 ends of the field. We do scout on 1 end of the field, and everybody's there watching. And it's, we put time restrictions on things. We do a lot of scenario stuff in our 6-on-6, but we get up and down the field every day. We try to compete. We'll try to scrimmage at certain points of the year, even during the season. We try to do that maybe once or twice a week. Do some, there'll be some, things that the guys will compete for and play for. I got this from one of my old players, Bart Sullivan. We'll put a cooler out every once in a while, and the guys will play for whatever's in the cooler. Maybe it's a day off. Maybe it's cold Snicker bars like you get at the turn going to the back 9. Maybe it's Gatorades or whatever. But it's just anything we can do to amplify the competition in practice, we do. And then just as a team, I never ever want one of our guys that might be on the scout team to ever feel like he's not going to have an opportunity to compete. So I think by competing like that during the year and just we try to give guys an opportunity to play, in openers and throughout the course of the game, that they work their ass off in practice that week. So, against Virginia, we gave Matt Sellers, one of our sophomores, the opener. And, it was based on the fact that the week before he gave us such a great look with one of the guys that we asked him to emulate from Drexel. And, by rewarding him with that, the team gets unbelievably fired up and it gets everybody's eyes on that first possession. And, we've been doing that now for 6 years. And when one of those guys, that gets pulled up from the scout gets to get the opportunity to be in the opener and they hit one, it's a melee on the bench. So little things like that. I mean, I just love having all of our guys engaged, and, the more competition we can create in practice, and the more we have everybody on board, the better off we are. And those guys know that when we win a championship or we have success at the end of the year, there's no stats on the shank of the ring. So everybody knows that they have an important job on our team, and those guys do a great job of just being teammates from top to bottom.
I love that. Is it true too? I read somewhere, I think Jamie Monroe wrote about it when he was at your practice. If there's a goal scored and the goal scorer does not point and call out the guy who had the assist, then it's no goal in the practice. Is that true? Yeah,
100%. That's Dean Smith, man. Point to the passer.
I love that.
A long time, and we do some quirky stuff. I mean, we have all kinds of stuff we do. If you come to one of our practices, it's pretty fun. I mean, the guys have a good time, and it's always nice when I invite people all the time. Anybody who's not on our schedule wants to come out and watch practice, they can.
What are you guys playing in on offense primarily? Do you have a base set, or does it always change?
It changes. It changes based on our opponent. We've got a couple primary looks that we run. We like to run out of a 1-3-2 a fair amount, and we like to redodge on the wings, and we'll do the same thing out of a 2-1-3 set. And then We do some stuff from the bottom up. We've got, exceptional guys back there that can invert and that can, Asher and Benny can put a lot of pressure on you as Dodgers. And then, a lot of, not a lot of set pieces, but some wrinkles kind of within those offenses that will run based on our opponent.
Yeah, cool. So, so you've been at High Point for 7 years. You played at Ohio State, and were a 3-year captain there. How did you get into coaching? When did you decide you wanted to be a college coach?
That's a great question, and I always like kind of pointing back to Mike Thomas, who was my coach at Calvert Hall as a junior there. And I was kind of that was my junior year in high school. I hadn't really thought about going to college. I wasn't a great student, at the time, and I was kind of I don't want to say like going down a bad path, but I was just kind of being lethargic. And I remember Mike Thomas pulled me aside, and he's a legendary coach in Baltimore, and he just said, you have the potential to play Division I lacrosse, but it's becoming apparent that you don't care about it. You don't do well in school. You don't put any time in after practice or inside of. Sorry, this was my sophomore year, outside of practice, and it just like a light switch went off in me, and I said, you know what, I'm never ever going to be anything but the hardest working kid from here on out. And what Mike did for me, resonated, and I said, you know what, if I have the ability to be able to do this in somebody else's life, I want to do this. Because that moment for me, when he said that to me, and then from that point forward, where he started to believe in me and made sure I was, doing my schoolwork and, monitoring what I was doing outside of practice, I felt the impact he had on my life, was so meaningful that I said, I want to do something like this. So it was really going in my junior year of high school, I made a decision that I want to be a college lacrosse coach. And from that point forward, there was no stopping me. So I had an opportunity to, leave college and go work at Denison for Mike Caravan. And then I went to Goucher with Kyle Hannon and, with Jamie at Denver and Andy up at Dartmouth. And, I've kind of loved every stop I've been at along the way, and I've learned a lot from so many people. And I couldn't imagine myself doing anything different.
That's awesome. So I'm interested. What's your take on recruiting right now? There's the new rules have kind of cycled through a year. If there's anything you could change, what would it be?
I don't know if I'd change anything. What's funny is recruiting cycles they almost don't mean a whole lot to me. I look at the guys we have in our program, Asher, Timmy, Davis are all great examples. I mean, they were all guys that committed to us either in their senior year or, after they had graduated their senior year. So for me, I know there's always great players out there late. I know there's some guys out there early that we need to get on, if we want to bring in an exceptional kid early, but I don't panic at recruiting. I mean, I know we're bringing in good kids, and I've always felt like recruiting great players and great people is important, but so is developing them once they get here. And as long as there's someone that has a good base athletically and fundamentally and, is coachable, I feel like we can turn them into something pretty good. So, yeah, I haven't been, crazy about changing anything or, haven't felt really, one way in particular about certain things that have come out, and, just kind of go with the flow.
Yeah. Do you feel like High Point needs to have a different approach than, say, a school like Duke or UVA or Hopkins?
Yeah, I do. I mean, we don't typically, get the super blue chip guys. I mean, some of those guys are interested, but I think there's a lot of people out there that, want to go to schools like that, that purely based on the fact that they're exceptional academic institutions. And, when you look at our sport and, the ultimate finish line is to get a great job, on Wall Street or to get a world of finance or banking and make a lot of money. It's not to play professional lacrosse. Maybe that changes, but, where it is right now is, you're not going to have a 15-year sustainable career in the MLL or the PLL and be a multimillionaire by the time you finish. So you better be able to have something else. So, those high-end academic schools, the Ivies, the Surface Academies, some of the ACC schools, those places are always going to be desirable in terms of where people want to go. But there's other great places out there too, and I always remember this saying. One of my buddies fathers who was on Wall Street told me, he said, 50% of people that work on Wall Street are from the Ivy League in those schools, but the other 50, aren't. And if you work hard, you'll be able to get to the point where, you're on an even playing field with some of those guys, because, those guys that work for it a little harder coming out sometimes cherish it a little bit more than those that are given opportunities. But, yeah, I mean, and you can't knock the track record of those schools either. I mean, schools like UVA, Duke, and UNC, I mean, the track record of, what they've done, not only academically, but, the coaches they have there are all fantastic, and programs that have won national championships. So I think, we like to get in the ring with those guys and try to get recruits from them. But, ultimately, we also know, the type of guys we're going to get. And, a lot of the times we try to butt heads with those guys too much. We end up not getting those guys, and puts us in a position where later we're kind of scrambling.
Yeah. Has college lacrosse changed a lot since you started coaching, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like rules and things of that sort, or just
rules, players, where they come from, just the general growth of the game too.
No doubt about it. I mean, my God, there's so many fantastic players now playing, in so many different places. And I mean, I come out to your event every year and just always blown away with not only the talent, not only the athletes, but just how good at people these kids are.
Yeah.
I mean, you go out to California, you go to Texas, and even places that aren't remote, like Philly and Baltimore, and the kids are just so engaged, and they listen, and they want to be taught, and it's just so fun. I mean, recruiting to me, and just the landscape of lacrosse and the growth of the game at the college level, and the different programs that are playing. I always joke, it's like if you said High Point was going to be ranked 7 years ago, people would just laugh at you. And now, programs like High Point and Richmond, Jacksonville's doing a great job. You've got all these schools now that are kind of popping up in the South and all over the place. Utah. I mean, it's really cool to see the game grow at this level, and the Division III level, Division II level. There's just so many opportunities for guys now.
Yeah. So, I assume some big schools are going to come and maybe try to recruit you away from High Point. Would you ever consider going at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I love it down here. I mean, honestly, my wife loves it. I love it. My kids love it. I got 3 kids now, and I had this conversation with Brian Fisher up in Monmouth. Guys that have started their programs from scratch. It's so hard to leave. I mean, it would be so hard to leave this place, and go anywhere else. I just have so much invested in here from a time standpoint, the care, the people, and I don't anticipate leaving. I mean, I love it. I know my wife loves it. Like I said, my kids love it. And, I'm fortunate enough to work at a school that, cares a great deal about lacrosse. And our athletic director is, such a big fan of what we're doing. And our university president, I mean, I don't know how many university presidents, send texts to their coaches after games, but, he's texting me telling me to come over to his house for dinner. I mean, that's unheard of, and I've never been in a place where that's happened before. I don't know if I ever would be at a place where that would happen. And, our guys get treated like, big time players around here. So, to answer your question, a lot of the times I say it's not my decision whether I leave or not. Sometimes, my athletic director or my boss will say it's time for you to go, but I hope I get to stay here as long as I want.
You mentioned, you've got so much invested in your 7 years. Can you give me like a quick overview of how you've built this to where it is today over the past 7 years? If you could remember back to when this all started, when you went to High Point.
Oh man. You said this is going to be a 30-minute podcast.
This one's going to take 30 minutes by itself.
Take 2 hours. It starts with, it starts with recruiting the right people. And I think the right people were our staff when we started. And I was fortunate enough to start the program with one of my best friends, Pat Tracy. And Mike Phipps came down, and Ron Garling and Ryan Cassidy and John Haas. And, I think of the guys that I've had the opportunity to work with now, Kenny and Brochard and Justin Tuma and Connor McKemmy. And I mean, the list goes on and on and on, but it's those guys. I mean, my assistants, my staff, I mean, these guys are, guys that I would consider some of my best friends and guys that have done, so much for this place, not only in helping to build, just kind of what we saw as, the culture that we wanted to kind of emulate, but, just bringing in the right people, the right parents, like I've said numerous times, bringing in guys that value their education, just putting together kind of our entire manual of kind of how we want the program to run, putting together a manual for our parents in terms of, what we needed from them and our expectations. And, that stuff that we put together in year one is still something that we hand our guys, every year, the first day of practice. It's about a 130-page manual as to, what we need to do to be where we want to be. And it might be overkill, but it pretty much covers most of the things that will happen during your 4 years here, from, the struggles you'll have as a freshman to, the expectations of, how we stand for the national anthem to, you name it. And, it's a shorter answer than I could probably, but it's a lot of people. It's a lot of hands. It's having a wife that, allows me to, be in the office. It's having kids that, are happy seeing their dad maybe only for an hour and a half every day when, other dads in our neighborhood are home for 3 hours a day. And there's so many hands that go into building something like this that it would be, like I said, it would be impossible to mention all those names and talk about all the little things we've done. And then it's just the guys that came here. The initial guys that bought into this lunatic who had this crazy vision of what this program could be, and sitting here and saying things without a $10 million building, or without a locker room, without a uniform, without a helmet, and they start to believe and they start to buy in, and the next thing you know, they're laying this incredibly solid foundation of what your program is, both socially and academically and effort-based wise, that the guys that come in after that feel like they have an obligation to live up to those expectations. And it's one thing when you have alums and they play here and they leave, but we have alums that stay. We have alumni that are always around, and guys that are always texting the current guys and helping them, and it's just it's almost remarkable, And I was fortunate enough, I tell people all the time, to play for Joe Bresci at Ohio State. And I knew Joe Bresci cared a great deal about the people that we had in our locker room. And he still does today at the University of North Carolina, to the point where, we had a group of guys that became best friends. And when I got married, 6 of the 7 guys at my wedding party were guys I played with at Ohio State. And people I vacation with now are guys I play with at Ohio State. And, the godfathers of my children, Ohio State guys, So I want that same experience for the kids I have in our locker room. I want the same experience for their parents. And, we talk about sometimes just dynamics that are created with our program and how we've run things, and, things that you don't typically think about when you're picking a school. For me, I still have a tremendous relationship with guys I played with parents. And it's crazy. I have parents that, of guys that I played with that would probably want to see me more than they'd want to see their own kid. And then my parents would probably want to see their kid more than they want to see me. And it was, when you go to tailgates and you're post game and you're hanging out with the parents, or you're going on a trip in the summer and you're staying with people's families, you just want to know that you're around good people. And, when you have exceptional people, it typically turns into success. So the people that have built this thing, along with me, and the parents and the players, all of them have had a hand in kind of turning this thing into what it is now, and hopefully what it will be in the future.
I want to transition for a minute just into what does it take to be a great college lacrosse player? I'm interested. What do you think is the most underrated skill for a lacrosse player to have?
It's being coachable. This is a sport where you don't have to be the biggest, fastest, strongest guy, but if you can do some unique things and you can take coaching points and you can add layers to your game, I think you have the ability to be successful. And you play with guys, at UVA that were God's gift in terms of their athleticism, but it never really came to fruition because they didn't have the piece between their ears that allowed them to grow. Whereas you probably play with some other guys that might not have been blessed with the ultimate athletic ability or skill, but they worked their ass off and they ended up getting great opportunities solely based on that. I think that's a big piece. And I think the other is, you have to check three boxes to be successful in college. You got to do what you need to do academically to be successful. You got to go to class, get to know your professors. You got to do your work. Socially, you have to surround yourself with people that make the right decisions. And you can't be a giant personality coming into school as a freshman and, be forced to live up to that and, be the party guy or be the guy that brings attention to himself all the time. And you need to be somewhat humble and, remain hungry. And then lacrosse wise, you can never put your head on the pillow at night with any sort of effort related issue that, is going to hold you back from taking a step forward that day, and if you live by those three things, you make good decisions academically and socially, and you surround yourself with the right people and you put forth a great effort every day, you're typically going to be successful, whether you step on the field or you don't, and I think that's one of the things parents kind of get caught up on. I think sometimes it's just, my kid isn't playing, he's a failure. It's like, no, it's not the case at all. Your kid might never step on the field, but if he's in an environment where it's discipline and he's learning and he's getting an education, he's, surrounding himself with people that'll be his best friends for the next 50 years. I mean, what else could you ask for? Anything that comes in the line of playing time or success or accolades is just icing on the cake. And that's the way I've kind of approached dealing with my kids. It's, I don't push lacrosse on them. I don't push sports on them. They like playing them because I'm around them all the time. But, I can't imagine being disappointed in my kid just because he's not playing. I just want them to do something they love and have fun and, just work hard to continue to get better at it every day if they're passionate about it.
Yeah, that's great. Is there an overrated skill? Is something that people pay too much attention on that doesn't really translate into college?
It kind of depends on the position, I think. I think sometimes people fall in love with the guys that kind of start the play, not really the guys that are the in-between or the guys that finish the play. And, at the college level, sometimes when you start to play, if you're that big, athletic, downhill dodger, people can fall in love with you. But, if you can't connect on a pass or pop away to free your hands or, understand what you have to do when somebody else comes to you, I don't know if you're going to be that big of value. Whereas some of the guys that get passed by are those guys that, are the flow guys, as people would call them, that can catch the ball, get it to the backside or, move in space and create the defense to kind of alter and change based on where they are. You really have to train your eyes to find those guys. It's the same thing defensively. I mean, people love the takeaway guy, the guy that gets up the field in transition, but I've always valued defensemen and think that all Americans, in this sport on the defensive end should be based on who the best guys are off the ball, because those are the guys that hold the defense together, and those are the guys that are, worth their weight in gold. I mean, it's a sport where probably 85 to 90 to 95% of the game you're going to be off ball defensively, and if you're not good in those areas, what good are you to your team? So, I think that. Sometimes people fall in love with big athletic kids, who can run, but there's so much more to this game. I mean, it's the ultimate multitasking game where you have so many different things you have to do.
Last question, then I'll let you get out of here. How about just some advice you'd give to young players that want to play college lacrosse? What would you tell them to do?
Oh, man. I think for myself, it was trying to emulate guys that I looked up to. And I think, for me and for you growing up, we didn't have the resource to be able to look on YouTube and, go on the internet and find different things. It was, walking to games, and it was, watching practices and, watching kids in high school that were older than you. But, you latch on to somebody that does something really well and that's worked hard to get to where they are, and try to surround yourself with great people. And typically your path will be one that leads to success.
I love it. Well, hey, man, good luck with the rest of the season. Thank you so much for coming on the show. So what's coming up next for you guys? Who you got this weekend?
We play St. John's, man. Yeah. Unbelievably tough, gritty, well-coached team, and they kicked our ass last year. So we're looking forward to competing against those guys this weekend, and I got the utmost respect for their staff. Those guys are great, so that's gonna be a fun one.
Well, fired up to watch you guys the rest of the year. Congrats on a great start, and good luck the rest of the way.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for having me.